Much of the money during political campaigns goes towards campaign advertising. And these campaign advertisements are one of the main ways that we as voters engage with candidates. Because you're probably not going to answer your cell phone when a campaign calls, right? You're going to see a number you don't recognize and you're going to screen it. And you probably won't get that much direct mail, especially if you still live at home. You're probably not paying that much attention to the mail. Your parents might, but you probably won't. And so, for the most part, the way you're going to engage with the campaign is through advertisements, especially on TV or on streaming services and things like YouTube, right? If you've ever watched YouTube during a presidential campaign, you've probably seen a campaign ad that you've had to like click skip ad to get rid of. And that ad, in the 5 seconds or so before you could skip it, gave you some information about the candidates, right? At least one of them. So that is how we often gather information about candidates because it doesn't take effort on our part. They come to us, right? We just see the ads. They're, foisted on us while we're watching YouTube or television or listening to the radio. So it's easy information. It lowers our information costs as voters because the information is coming to us. We don't have to do much. And if they're sort of nice, slick ads that, are fun to watch, entertaining in some way, or interesting in some way, it really lowers the effort involved in watching it and gathering this information. Now, when we watch these ads, are often not convinced to change our vote. If you are a Democrat and you're like, I'm going to vote for the Democrat no matter what, and you see an ad from the Republican candidate, and it's a really great positive ad talking up that candidate, or a negative ad against the Democrat, you're probably not going to all of a sudden go, oh, forget the Democrat, I'm going to vote Republican now. Very unlikely. There is such thing as an affective tipping point, which is when we get enough information that's against what we believe to change our beliefs. But that's really rare. It takes a lot of information to get us to that point. So oftentimes, political advertisements won't really convince people who already know who they're going to vote for to change who they're going to vote for. But it may convince people to go out and vote, right? Because it's lowering that information cost. You now know who the candidate is in your party, and maybe you think, well, now that I know who they are, yeah, sure, I'll vote for them. Or maybe one of the ads tells you when election day is, or that the election is close. Remember, messages of closeness are one of the best ways to get people to go and vote. So maybe you hear this campaign ad that talks about how close the election is and how important your vote is. You might think, hey, you know what? Yeah, I'll go out and vote. But ads have another purpose. Some voters don't know who they're going to vote for. It's a relatively small portion of the general voting population, but these undecided voters exist. And campaign ads may very well change their minds because they're not being persuaded to switch their opinion, they're being persuaded to form an opinion. And giving voters this information helps them do so with a lot less effort. Now, just a sort of interesting note, as you can see by these black bars on this bar chart, negative ads are becoming more and more common. Negative ads are just basically attack ads. They're an ad that talks about the other candidate instead of the candidate who's running the ad. So if I were running for president, I would run a negative ad that was only bashing my opponent. A positive ad would be something only talking me up. So we can see that these negative ads are becoming more and more common, these ads about the other candidate. Now, interestingly, these negative ads, there's a lot of talk about them, and oh no, the tone of politics is so negative. Voters won't like this. People will be turned off by politics and not want to vote. It's actually not true. Studies have shown that for the most part, negative ads do not have any effect on turnout, and that negative ads actually typically contain more substance than positive ads. They actually talk more substantively about things like the issues and the laws and different things that are at stake than positive ads, which tend to be sort of fluffy and, oh, look how great I am. And so these negative ads might actually help give more information to voters, and they don't seem to turn voters off. In addition to the ad itself giving more information, a lot of times the person who the ad is attacking will want to respond. So they will then have to put their own ad in response, which again increases the information that voters are getting. So negative ads may well increase political awareness and information there, or to put it sort of in other terms, reduce information costs for voters, which makes voting more likely. Because if the information costs are lower, that changes the cost benefit analysis that voters sort of implicitly go through, right? We don't like explicitly say, okay, what are the costs and benefits of voting? But we often weigh these things sort of as we make the decision whether to vote or not. So if we know a lot more about the candidates, we're going to be more able to vote because we'll be more informed about it. So advertising, whether it's positive, contrast, or negative ads, can be the way we really interact with campaigns. And even negative ads can really increase our understanding and knowledge of what's going on in the campaign. And because they don't seem to suppress turnout, we see them sort of becoming more and more common. Because again, they reduce information costs and don't seem to make people less likely to vote.